Hello and welcome to Black American Lineage. Today I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Soldiers. The Buffalo Soldiers are legendary in America's military history. I don't think it's really been talked about the way I talk about it. See, the Buffalo Soldiers formed during the Civil War, and then after the Civil War, after the military saw that they were good soldiers, they found ways to utilize the Buffalo Soldiers. Now remember, this was during very, very segregated times. But this is the big thing about the Buffalo Soldiers. The United States Cavalry, as they call themselves, the United States Army, had been fighting the Indians, that we call them, the indigenous people on the plains, ever since they got here practically. And they had not been able to defeat those indigenous people that we call Indians. So they fought them and fought them and fought them. And this is what I say, and I want somebody to prove me wrong. It was only after the Buffalo Soldiers went out west and started fighting those Indians that they were able to put them down. They will admit that they were good soldiers, but they won't acknowledge that it took the Buffalo Soldiers to go out west and put those Indians down. They had not been able to defeat those Indians. The problem with that reality is that they might have been fighting on the right side of history, but they were fighting the wrong people. But we have to acknowledge the context. They were just out of slavery. They had found a place for themselves in the United States military, and that gave them a new identity. They were no longer slaves, but soldiers. They were just trying to do whatever they could to make a living and a life for themselves. So that is the unfortunate part of the Buffalo Soldiers. Their job was to go out there and fight those indigenous people, and they did. But it's really tragic that they had to do that, pitting one group of marginalized people against another. But I do want to talk about the Buffalo Soldiers. Buffalo Soldiers were African American soldiers who mainly served on the western frontier following the American Civil War. In 1866, 6 all-black cavalry and infantry regiments were created after Congress passed the Army Organization Act. Their main task were to help control the Native Americans of the plains, capture cattle rustlers and thieves, and protect settlers, stagecoaches, wagon trains, and railroad crews along the Western Front. So what we're saying is what is always the case with black people. Give them the hardest and most dangerous jobs. So they sent them out there to fight the Indians, the gunslingers, the train robbers, the stagecoach robbers, anything that anybody was doing out there, breaking the law. It was the job of the Buffalo Soldiers to take them on, arrest them, and bring them to justice. Who were the Buffalo Soldiers? No one knows for certain why, but the soldiers of the all-black 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments were called Buffalo Soldiers by the Native Americans they encountered. The 9th and 10th Regiments were based out west. The 9th Regiment was based in San Antonio, Texas, and the soldiers' main mission was to secure the road from San Antonio to El Paso and restore and maintain order in areas disrupted by Native Americans, many of whom were frustrated with life on Indian reservations and broken promises by the federal government. The black soldiers, facing their own forms of discrimination from the U.S. government, were responsible for removing another minority group in the same government's name. So yes, that's the tragedy. They had the black people out there fighting the Native Americans. The 10th Cavalry was based in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, but in August of 1867, they were ordered to Fort Riley, Kansas, with the responsibility of protecting the Pacific Railroad, which was under construction at the time. Who were they protecting it from? Again, the Native Americans. Before they left Fort Leavenworth, some of the troops fought hundreds of Cheyenne Indians in 2 separate battles near the Saline River. About 20% of the U.S. cavalry troops that participated in the Indian Wars were Buffalo Soldiers who participated in at least 177 conflicts. So see, had them out there fighting the Indians. Buffalo Soldiers didn't only battle Native Americans, they also fought wildfires and poachers in Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks and supported the park's infrastructure, which means they were out there building and cutting down and doing whatever other folk didn't want to do. As an honorable mention, the Buffalo Soldiers were the nation's first park rangers, so they had to get out there and do it and show how it was supposed to be done. And then here comes the second crew, okay? Buffalo Soldiers were also in other conflicts. In the late 1800s, with the Indian problem mostly settled, the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry headed to Florida at the start of the Spanish-American War. Even facing blatant racism from the American soldiers, military, and enduring brutal weather conditions, Buffalo Soldiers earned a reputation for serving courageously. They fought heroically in the Battle of San Juan Hill, the Battle of El Caney, and the Battle of Los Guasimos. And in the Battle of San Juan Hill, Theodore Roosevelt was in that battle, and he originally said that those Buffalo Soldiers fought as courageously or more courageously than anybody, and it was written in the newspaper, and there was pressure on him from the military to retract that statement. So again, didn't want to give them credit. It's okay to make them get out there and do the work, just don't give them credit for it. The 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments served in the Philippines in the early 1900s, and despite proving their military worth time and time again, they continued to experience racial discrimination. During World War I, they were mostly relegated to defending the Mexican border. Both regiments were integrated into the 2nd Cavalry Division in 1940. They trained for overseas deployments and combat during World War II. The 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments were deactivated in May of 1944. By the 1940s, there were black civil rights activists, mainly A. Philip Randolph, who were pressuring the United States government for equality for black people, including desegregating the United States military. Finally, in 1948, Harry Truman, President of the United States, signed Executive Order 9981, which desegregated the United States military. Buffalo Soldiers had the lowest military desertion and court-martial rates of their time. Many won the Congressional Medal of Honor, an award presented in recognition of combat valor and goes above and beyond the call of duty. And the Buffalo Soldiers' legacy? Today, visitors can attend the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum in Houston, Texas, a museum dedicated to the history of their military service. I don't know if you call this an honor, but Bob Marley and the Wailers immortalized the Buffalo Soldiers in the reggae song Buffalo Soldiers. He highlighted the fact or the irony that formerly enslaved men and their descendants who had been stolen from Africa were now in a new land, taking land from the indigenous people for the people, the white settlers who had stolen them from their homeland in Africa. For me, the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers is a conundrum because I understand that coming up out of slavery, they were trying to hold on to something to give them a new identity and a way of being a man and making a living and a life for themselves. It has to always be underscored that they faced tremendous discrimination and racism from the United States military, even as they used them to do jobs that they didn't want to do. Yet they did the job, and they did the job well. But we can always regret that they had to fight the indigenous people to gain some kind of credibility for themselves. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. Thank you for helping this channel grow. Continue to subscribe. Continue to give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment and share the videos. And as always, have a great day.